he just cut way too far and way too deep and just bled everywhere. The stage was covered in blood. And I remember
Jesus Christ.
the bartender came out afterwards with like just an old, just like shitty mop bucket, like and mopped it up and was like, okay, you guys are good to go. And it's just like,
welcome to the 131st episode of the Cast That Ends Creation. I'm your host, Chris Deering. This is the show where I interview bands and public figures from the mathcore and mathcore adjacent communities. My guest today dropped their new album, Comedian, back on the 18th through Prosthetic Records. Welcome in Without Waves. How's it going, guys?
how's it going? Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. Why don't you tell us who you are, what you do in the band?
I'm Anthony. I'm a vocalist, guitar player.
I'm Zach. I just play guitar.
Alrighty, straightforward. So it looks like your Facebook started in 2010, so you guys have been together for 12 years? That's insane. Yeah. Same lineup the whole time, or?
It is.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. Holy crap.
Three of us have been playing together. We had like a thrash metal band years ago that we started in high school, back in 2002. And then, but then Without Waves since 2010. But yeah, we collectively, I mean, we've been playing together a long time. So,
dang, it's go from thrash metal to this. I guess there's some similarities, but this is pretty wildly different.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of why we had kind of cut our teeth, kind of in metal in general when we were kind of like in high school and throughout some of the college years and stuff like that. But then we started noticing, I think, some of the music we wanted to write was changing outside of that realm. And Without Waves was actually, we started that with the intention of being able to kind of just do whatever we want.
So you mentioned the band started with like a core of 3 people. Were y'all like high school friends or something, or how did y'all get together?
Well, the 2 of us went to high school together.
Okay.
And actually, I started playing guitar because of Anthony.
Yeah.
And he initially started jamming with our drummer, Gary. And so they kind of had a thing, and eventually I joined that. And then in college, we met our bass player. So. Mm-hmm.
All right. You all kind of fell into place, then you didn't have to like try hard to get a group together then.
No. Yeah. It's, at the end of the day, it is almost still like we're just 4 guys in high school, like just getting together to hang out and escape reality.
Yeah. And also very similar intelligence levels as well. You know, we haven't changed at all. So
yeah, the level of humor.
Yeah.
The Slayer, God Hates Us All references. It's all straight back to 17.
Mm-hmm.
So why'd you pick the name Without Waves? Were you just looking for something with alliteration, or is there like an actual meaning behind it?
How did we get there, Zach? I don't remember.
So technically you came up with the name.
Okay.
And I believe it was a translation from the word Avicii.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, then we kind of found our own meaning to it, because Without Waves, like, I like to think of it as kind of like an analog or a way of kind of saying like silence or nothingness.
Okay. You said it's a translation from a word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think from just the 7 layers of hell, like Avicii, there was some sort of, I think I stumbled upon it somewhere, some sort of Sanskrit translation of it meaning without waves. But like Zach said,
I like the idea of it, you just going through like books trying to translate things, and you're just like, oh shit, there we go.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we were at the time, we were throwing a lot of things and kind of sticking them on the wall and just to kind of see what sticks. But like, the 4 of us generally, like, I don't think there's ever like a full consensus right away on things. You know, we do kind of tend to take our time, kind of talking things out, feeling things out. And this was one instance where we did that. But this one, just like Zach said, I think just kind of fit the overall vibe, I guess we were going for. We all just vibe with it. So
yeah, that one felt right. Everything else we came up with is just terrible.
Yeah, goat fucker didn't. I was really pushing for that, but we
Hey,
couldn't
that's
do
a great
that.
name. That's a great one right there, man. Put that in your pocket for the thrash metal band, all right?
Indeed.
Yeah, dude.
So you've dropped 2 albums and an EP up to this point, and now you're back with your 3rd album, Comedian. What's so funny?
Everything, life, humans.
Well, so why are we naming a comedian then?
Oh, comedian's tough. Why did we land at comedian? I guess to a certain extent, like what makes something funny, often what makes something funny is being able to look at a subject 2 different ways simultaneously. Like a lot of comedy is just, the comedian pointing out the obvious. You just never really looked at it or thought about it that way. And that's when they connect. That's when like that spark happens. And I kind of feel like the record has the same job. And I feel music is really similar. Like when you hear a new song that you identify with for some reason, like that same spark, like I think it's similar to finding something funny. And so
Okay. Because I was reading through the lyrics, I was like, oh, the lyrics are probably going to be funny or something, and they're not. So, like, I'm just trying to understand from a lyrical perspective why the name is comedian.
Yeah. So like that, like talking about humor, there's a lot of the lyrics have to do with perspective and duality. So I think humor is an interesting way at looking at something from different angles. And then also just kind of relishing a little bit, at least for me personally, in the absurdity of life. Like,
okay, so it's kind of like a nihilistic kind of approach or whatever. Like everything like sucks, so like it's funny. I guess I don't know. I'm trying to understand this.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit more positive. Like, not that everything sucks, but more just in the grand scheme of time, everything is kind of pointless. But in that sense, I think it's really special that, I get to even say or think about that at all.
Okay.
Yeah, like there's the author Kafka, and he had this idea that Sisyphus, if you remember Sisyphus from Greek mythology, the guy pushing the boulder up the hill, and as soon as he gets towards the top, it always rolls back down. That's such a great analogy for life. But you could like look at that as like this terrible punishment, or you can look at it as like he's got it all figured out. Like the way he spends his day is no different than how I spend my day. But
Okay. It's a little deeper than I imagined the explanation would be, but I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So this is your 2nd release on Prosthetic Records. How did you guys hook up with them?
We hooked up with them. We met Steve Joe, who works for Prosthetic, and he had been with Century Media for a really long time. And he'd been with Prosthetic, I think, for several years. But I think we had started speaking to them in 2016, maybe. And Steve lives in Iowa, and so he was, I think, kind of scouting different bands, specifically Chicago, but kind of the Midwest area and whatnot. So we were able to speak to him through a mutual friend, and we signed officially with them. I think we signed in it was either early 2017 or no, we signed in 2016, and then Lunar, our first record with them, came out in March of 2017. So.
And so that was 5 years ago. Why was there this huge break?
Well, part of it was the pandemic. We were just kind of like getting into mixing mode right as the pandemic hit. So we were originally intending for the record to come out in like late 2020, or hoping for that, pushing for that. And then that happened, and I think we all kind of looked at what that was. And I mean, we had friends in bands who were, had just released albums and having to cancel tours and things like that. So we kind of figured, okay, we'll take this time to, refine maybe some of the aspects of the record that we still want to do. We'll see how this rolls out. And now the record came out in March of 2022, so
Like a year and a half later. That sucks, man. I'm having to wait on it that long.
Yeah, I mean, I part of it, I was really happy. Like, we just played our release show, last weekend, and I was really happy that we got to do that, because like we had put a lot of time and energy into the record, and you always want to be able to celebrate that with people. So I was happy it worked out that way. But yeah, in an ideal world, that the pandemic wouldn't have happened, and it would have been out a lot sooner. So
right. That's crazy.
Definitely.
So did y'all write any like new songs and stuff in that time frame, or was it just more refining things and sitting on it?
I mean, we'd already recorded all the record, at that point. So the writing, I think, really took place within, between roughly, 2017 and 2019. There were probably some remnants of certain songs, like riffs and things like that had been maybe hanging around before, that we've kind of kept in the in our minds, here and there. But I would say the hardcore amounts of writing with all of us in the room, kind of took place after Lunar, and then before, getting into the studio and recording. So.
Okay, so you really were just like sitting on your hands for a year and a half, and that sucks.
Kinda, yeah. I mean, because we weren't for a while. We weren't getting together and rehearsing with everything going on, and then we started rehearsals up again, and we started working on some new stuff even past the new record that we released. But it was really sort of just the introductory sort of, the four of us actually still get rehearsed multiple times a week, even after all these years. And so a lot of times we were just getting together just to, stay fresh, and also have something to do, and just kind of continuing to, work on things. So. Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah. So what would you say is different in your music this time around?
Ooh. I think it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this record is a lot better than the last one. Why? It's probably hard to personally quantify. I think to a certain extent, like we've talked about just all the years that we've been playing together, I feel like we do continue to kind of grow and evolve. And we're very comfortable with each other when it comes to songwriting. Like, there are songs where one of the two of us will write almost all of it and approach it and, approach the band with it. And then there are other songs where it's a pretty communal effort, man, that could even come out of just kind of jamming around in our practice space. So I really think, it's hard to quantify anything specifically, at least for me, but I think just growing together as four individuals and then also as a whole.
Yeah, I tried to find I like to find an answer for this question myself and present it to you guys, but it seems like it's pretty not the same like album or whatever, but y'all have as much experimentation on this one as you did the last one. Like, you're constantly like changing things up. Your sound includes like all the different metal genres. Like, there's not much more like experimentation you can do than what you're already doing. So like, I feel like y'all are just getting better and better at your craft.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think we wrote a better batch of songs all around. And also I think just I love Lunar and what we did on that, but a lot of those songs were written over like a 5 or 6 year period, where this, I think, was really written more so over a 2 to 3 year period. So I think just our input, just in our own personal lives, and some of the things that ended up in the lyrics, which also kind of blended into some of the ways we were approaching the music, and everything feels a little bit more cohesive this time around. And also the way that we recorded it too. We worked with Rollin Weary. He recorded, engineered, and ended up mixing the record too. And we worked with him very, very closely on things that we really wanted to kind of pay attention to this time around. Consistency from a tonal, point of view, using specific guitars, even in certain sections, going with whatever sounds best vocally. Had like a big breakthrough with him as how we approached this record. all of which happened very, very organically, so I think that whole process was more fruitful because of that. And I think we got a better sounding record all around because of it. So
Funny that you think that like these songs are better and they've been written over a shorter period of time than the one that's been like for a long time. So like, why do you think that is? You think you're just like not nitpicking it as much? I guess.
I think
No,
we just
this got nitpicked to death. Yeah, like we were hyper specific about everything on this record. Kind of like, man, look at that answer I gave for like just why we call the record Comedian. So just apply
Okay,
that
yeah.
to every aspect of the process. But we've definitely, we've made a couple records now. We've written a couple songs now, and I just think we've gotten better at it. And
So it's more that you got the process down, so you could do it quicker. Not that like it's better because you did it in a shorter period of time or whatever.
Yeah, I think we know each other better. We've been through this a couple times, and when we are writing, I think it's while we still are very nitpicky, and I just think we all kind of understand each other a little bit more than we did years ago, which makes sense if you've been playing together that long. Things just kind of evolve in that way.
Okay. So what genre you guys consider yourselves?
that's tough.
Yep.
That's really tough because to a certain extent, we almost like, I feel like we fall into progressive just due to a lack of a better option, but even that has become its own living definition that I don't know if we really fit inside of. Like, we're not gent and we're not strictly mathcore, but there's like one guitar solo on the record. I don't know. Like, does that apply?
Yeah.
I've just been.
Oh no, go on ahead.
I was just gonna say I've just been telling people we sound like Mumford and Sons, and just kind of going with that.
Dude, that's pretty accurate. Pretty accurate.
Yeah. Totally.
But I guess I'd say progressive metal as well. But like you said, it's way more than that because you incorporate like black metal in some parts and like you're kind of all over the map. You kind of remind me actually. I think it's mainly like the chorus sections or the cleaner like singing sections. But you guys kind of remind me of Spock's Beard or in like that whole like '90s revival of progressive rock. I guess it's like because your sound is like sort of cold and clean, but still organic feeling. It's hard to describe, but like definitely the clean singing parts. I was like, oh, that's Spock's Beard. Is that a big influence on you guys? Am I way off base or what's up?
No, I think that's a pretty accurate. Like we're all in our mid to late 30s, so from a foundational point of view, there's probably certainly been some. Just from my own personal music experience and all the bands that sort of that I got into when I was younger in my formative years. I mean that does have an effect on you for sure. I don't know, Zach, you were going to add something? Yeah.
I guess I was going to say like this cliche answer, like I've heard of that band, but I've never listened to them. I think where a lot of these converging genres also stem from is the fact that the four of us, our tastes do overlap, but they differ quite a bit too. So, you might have a section where, let's say if I'm the most prog rock out of all of us, if I walk in with something that's, kind of cliche in that realm, but then maybe Anthony will stem on some influences that I would never listen to, like a 90s R&B or something, and come up with a nice vocal hook over that. Like, so.
Yeah. I want to hear more R&B in your sound. Okay. That's the challenge for the next. So you were just talking about a little bit, but how does the writing process work with you guys? Is like one person mainly directing it and y'all are kind of adding your own spin, or is it kind of everybody brings?
It generally starts with either Zach or I. We'll bring something to the table that's probably anywhere from between 40 to 90% written. Some things like there's a very clear organization already kind of present, and then we get it into the room and it morphs and it changes and becomes something else. Other times we kind of hammer it out with each other and spend a little bit more time chiseling, and kind of feeding off one another. But yeah, generally it'll start with either Zach or I, depending on who's feeling it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny too, because we do, like, even if I walk in with something like 90% written, like if anyone else does something cool, that song just took a left turn. It's never the same again. And
Yeah.
and that's for the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely take a couple different approaches. Like, there are times when just the two of us will work on things that we have together, or just one of us alone, like with Gary, our drummer. There's a couple different approaches.
Okay. So this is a double LP. Did y'all set out to write something this big?
No, not intentionally. No.
Well, so did y'all ever consider cutting it down so it would fit on one 12-inch?
It fit perfectly. I think, like, all the songs, we had talked about that when we realized, it being, because it's a 55-minute record, but like, we don't have any like super long songs. A lot of them fall within like the, 5 to 6 minute range, maybe. So, that being said, like, yeah, I think we were more so focused on like, this feels complete. And if we did have a discussion about that, I think we quickly were like, no, we should just stick to this. I don't remember. Yeah.
I remember a little bit. So the last song that was written for the record was Sleep Deep, which Anthony kind of came in with kind of last minute. I mean, it's not like we had like tracking dates booked and there was a deadline.
Last minute for us, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for us it was last minute. But I remember once he came in with that, it did feel complete. Like, I remember we had kind of a conversation of like, we got to cap it here. Like, this collection of songs feels like an actual. It doesn't feel just like 10 random songs or whatever. Like, this feels complete for some reason. So we kind of capped it at that.
So we already talked about the lyrics a little bit. I just had one question here. In Algorithm, do y'all list like these numbers? They're not listed in the actual lyrics, but it's 8162891441. What does that mean? I looked it up on the internet, couldn't find anything. So yeah, just wondering.
That's good. I think the meaning behind that. So what that essentially is, it is kind of like a random grouping of numbers. When we were writing that song, I remember that sort of harmony or melody kind of popping into my head, and I remember going somewhere quiet with my phone and recording, the 816-289-1441, and I had that, and I was like, that works for that part. Didn't quite know what it was at that point, and then as the song took shape and the meaning took shape, there's a line in the spoken word section, art is anything you can get away with. And that's a line that was attributed to, a lot of people attribute that to Warhol, Andy Warhol, but it was actually a quote from 20th century sort of the father of communication and marketing. His name's Marshall McLuhan. I studied him in college, and he essentially predicted the internet like in the 1950s and all kinds of stuff. He was a weird guy. A lot of his stuff is like very, very dense and hard to read and not enjoyable to read. But I thought that was kind of a very interesting take on that, because art is anything you can get away with. Art can be, this grouping of numbers that fits within this part of the song that ultimately takes shape and will mean something, not just to me, but to, someone listening to it. Like you looked up the numbers online, that it's engaging, right? And I don't know. I like how that is interconnected in that way.
So they're random?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's either something that like, so I work in real estate and leasing. So I may have like maybe dialed that number at some point, or got a call with that number at some point, or maybe had something that had to do with that. But the reality is just that I don't know. It just fit, and so we just went with it. So.
That's so weird. Okay, so like, were you trying to like figure out numbers then to put in the song, or like just purely came from nowhere? Where you like, oh, I need to have like a string of numbers, so like let me work on getting the string of numbers together that work.
Like there are times like I think I'm thinking back to when we were first writing, some of the lyrics for that, and I spend a lot of time like in my car or in my office, like alone. And I sometimes latch on to things like that in a very, very like hyper focused way. So it's possible that I feel like that number came from somewhere. It might have been just the area code or something like that, but actually like finding a set of numbers that actually kind of sounded fun or coming off the tongue or like catchy like that.
Right.
Sometimes I just sit around and play with words, and sometimes I sit around and sing stuff that doesn't make sense, and eventually it does. I don't know. So
alrighty, okay,
yeah,
interesting.
I'm a fucking weirdo. It's basically what it comes down to.
Well, it's cool that you have this little thing that it doesn't really mean anything, but people could like really read into it. You should come up with some like story about that. That's
There should be some fake story that's a number to like like some mob guy in New Jersey, and
right. It's like a safe combination or something. Or, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let's see. So you said y'all recorded this with Roland Weary. Weary was his name, right? Roland
Weary, yes.
Roland Weary. Okay. So is he like the kind of guy that like, pushed you guys to do more on the record, or is he one of those more like hands off guy?
Well, everything was written by the time we got to him, so from like a compositional standpoint, that was all us. But in regards to trying to realize the songs and how we wanted them to sound, he really pushed us. And then he's just so incredibly talented that he, pushed us out of our comfort zone even. Like there were times on the record where he would turn off the click track. He'd be like, hear that? Hear how the drums are speeding up a little at the end of that phrase? You play to him. You're not playing to the click. It's like, okay.
That's awesome though. You need like one of those people to make sure you're doing your best.
Oh yeah, we would shoot out everything. Just like, here's 3 to 4 different octave pedals. Like, which one sounds the best? What's actually going to function the best? And he was just so talented. And he also came to the studio with just this arsenal of incredible gear. He kind of introduced us to aluminum neck guitars, which we used a lot on the record.
Really? Huh.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of an aluminum guitar. That's interesting.
They're fun, man.
They're super cool. You're building one right now, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've got the pieces on my dining room table over there.
So what's the difference? I guess it'd be like more attack and stuff like that, or like it sound more like tinny, I guess?
I think they do have a slightly more square sound, if that makes sense. They're definitely bright, and yeah, kind of like the difference between ebony and rosewood. Like it is a very rigid fingerboard. So
interesting. Yeah, so you like it better than like a regular like wood guitar then?
Yes and no. I kind of like it depending on what I'm doing. Like if I was to try and do something really shreddy, I would still want a wooden fretboard. But and also they can be a little clanky sounding, if that makes sense. Okay. There's like a real nice like, tactile aspect to aluminum guitars.
That's interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
That definitely lent itself to the record though, because it's a very bright sounding record overall. I was reading one review that described it as crunchy and punchy, And I thought that was a pretty good description of the overall sound.
Crunchy, punchy. I like that.
I do too, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right in that aluminum guitar wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So then you guys got it mastered by Brad Boatwright at Audio Siege, because everybody gets it mastered by Brad Boatwright at Audio Siege. I mean, the man does good work, but like, it just seems like everybody goes to them. Yeah, I guess you just chose him because of his legacy or whatever, right?
He was great, man. Like, and he worked with us. Like, we spent a lot of time kind of crafting a lot of the sounds, and he did exactly what we needed to do. I mean, he kept I think the essence of the mix intact. But yeah, it's a loud record too, which is great. So I think I just did a great job sonically. So.
Oh yeah, both him and Roland did really well. What's up?
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah, it is loud, but he did a good job of retaining the dynamics, because we really tried to take in a lot of that, and it'd be easy to kind of smooth that out. So I think we landed at a very, very happy spot. So.
Right, it's not like overly processed sounding or anything like that. It does sound organic at the time as being like loud and stuff. So let's talk about the elephant in the room here. What's going on with this album cover? We got it up on stream now. A flamingo killing a flamingo. What's up?
I love that image. So that is actually a scene. Basically, those birds, the two adults, are trying to feed the baby. So what you're seeing there, what looks like blood, is actually known as crop milk. So that's their regurgitation. It just comes out that color.
Okay.
But that's why we chose that image, is that, like I said earlier, like perspective and duality are really important for this record, as is intent. So something that looks to be an act of violence is actually an act of nourishment.
Huh. It 1000% looks like he stuck his bill into the other one's head. Like 1000%, it looks like that's why. That's crazy.
Well, I love everyone has been commenting on the cover, in different ways. But like, I think what Zach was saying, I think it's great. Just you have this cover that looks grisly and off-putting, when in reality they are just nourishing the little chickling. But then I also love the fact that it looks grisly and ugly and weird. But then the colors are also super vibrant, like the pinks, and the, everything about that. When we were finding or trying to figure out the cover, Zach found the image actually, and I remember seeing it and was just like, that's it. Like that is absolutely what this cover needs to be. And then Zach was super scared that there was going to be someone else that comes out with an album with that cover in between now and when we first got it. Thankfully, that didn't happen. So
I was still worried someone was going to beat us to market with it.
I do like how you could use like a flamingo as your like mascot or whatever because of this. That's really cool. But like, how did you come across this image? Was it like random, or were you looking for something along these lines? I'm not even sure how you would search for this on Google.
Right. I had actually had a couple people share it with me over time, because it went viral a little bit, like a year or two ago, or probably 3 years ago now, or 4, who even knows? Yeah, I guess I have a couple friends who are bird fans. Yeah, it just made it across my radar more than once. So then I brought it to the guys, and we took it from there.
Yeah.
Alrighty, pretty straightforward. Huh.
And actually,
did you ever think like, we can't just put like a picture of animals on here, or were you like immediately like, yeah, that's it?
I felt that way.
Okay.
Yeah, we all talked about it as a band. I mean, I loved the image when Zach first found it, but like, collectively, like we all discussed these things and kind of talked about things. But Zach, you made a good point recently, as far as finding the image as opposed to going to an artist.
Like if we went to an artist and was like, hey, can you make a cover that looks like one thing but is actually a different thing? Like, it would just be such a tall, ridiculous order. Like,
yeah.
So, yeah, the fact that oh, this is it. Like, yeah, no, this checks every box. Let's do it. Feels right.
Yeah.
Did you have to convince Prosthetic, or were they on board from the beginning?
They were cool.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So besides this, you also did a video for Good Grief. Talking here. Oh, that's really. Alrighty. So what was the idea behind? Like, I see y'all playing basketball and stuff. But whose idea was this?
We originally came up with that after, tossing around a number of, different ideas, and some of the ideas stemmed from, I think, the actual meaning of some of the lyrics, or like what we're actually singing about. But then I think at one point I brought up, like, what if we just do something fun? Like, what if we just, like, we're all, Gary, our drummer, and I, and John, we're all into basketball, and then Zach by default. So I think we were all kind of, why don't we just film a basketball game or something? And then that slowly turned into, the storyline of Evil Us versus Good Us, which we credit to our videographer, Dustin Smith, because we had sent him over a treatment, and we went back and forth, met with him, and just like it just came out so perfectly, having us battle each other, it was fun. One thing I will say, no one's caught this yet. If you look closely in the video, look at the numbers on each jersey. It'll be an 8, 1, 6, 2, 8, 9, 14, and 41, which is a subtle callback to the algorithm, actually. So again, artists got away with,
Okay. Oh, now I'm seeing it. Now that you mentioned it. I'm trying to figure out what it was exactly in here, but you open up like a box or whatever. Were they magic sweatbands, or what is it that you get that lets you beat the bad guys, the bad version?
Yeah, because they were kicking our ass, and essentially the janitor, who's played by our manager Rodney, he came up with some magical pink sweatbands, go along and give us the strength and the resolve to, because I think the original impetus of that was sort of Space Jam-esque, like Michael and the secret sauce and stuff like that, the Jordan stuff. But a lot of the video too was kind of we're from Chicago, so I think originally when we were coming up with the video idea too, I was thinking about the Bulls back in the late 80s, early 90s, when they would battle the Pistons, Detroit, who at the time was the dirtiest team in basketball, and they'd won 2 championships, and they were just rough and just beat the shit out of the Bulls, and then Bulls eventually came, of course, stuff like that. But yeah, anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, from what I'm told, there are several basketball homages in that video.
Yeah. So you're not a big basketball guy then?
I have nothing against it, but never. That was my first dunk.
Okay. No, I'm with you, man. I'm not a big fan of sports in general either. So a lot of it's probably going over my head. There's probably a lot of stuff. Yeah, I think it's a cool, fun video. I enjoy it. Did y'all get it all shot in one day then?
Whew. Those were 2 very, very long days.
2 days. Dude.
Yeah, and actually, talking to our videographer and some of his peers, they were kind of surprised, this should have been a 3-day shoot.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't seem that complex.
We had to do it.
Or go ahead.
No, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. So also keep in mind too that with us having to do dual roles, that complicated everything.
True.
Yeah, and having the performance video in the same location that the actual game took place at.
Okay.
It was kind of to the wire too, because we only had 2 days to film it. It was a couple days before Christmas this past year, and it took forever to find a gym.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that was like the most stressful part of it. Was like
It seems like it'd be
scouting.
the easiest thing.
One would think.
It would be, but most gyms want you to rent by the hour.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it's
that
really
just
expensive then. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be impossible. So,
So you guys also sell these jerseys now on your Bandcamp, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, here's an example, right? So this is my jersey from the video. This is my Good Without Wage jersey. We sell these both in they have double zeros on them now, but yeah, man, like super fun. It's a nice little fun merch option for people. Yeah, I dig it.
No, it's really cool that you like took a video concept like all the way to like the merch. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
cool. Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, why not switch it up a little bit? Like, I think it's the first basketball jersey I've ever owned. Yeah,
Really? Wow. That's exciting.
it's exciting.
Are you gonna start playing?
No, obviously I peaked. That's
Okay.
is that
Go out on top. Yeah, you got to go out on top, dude, for sure.
So we got a random question here. We ask everybody, what do you put on your hot dogs?
On our hot dogs?
That's a very legitimate question with us being from Chicago. I'm Zach. Go ahead. You go first.
I mean, I had a Chicago dog for lunch today.
Well, is that like your favorite kind of hot dog then, the Chicago dog?
It is, but I've never really. Did I have one in Montreal? Maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna say that's my favorite.
And like, can you refresh me on what Chicago dog is real quick? I think I know, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, so what is it? We got mustard, onion, relish or pickle, tomato, celery salt. Celery salt is very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then usually the pepper too, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I never heard the celery salt part before. That sounds interesting. I'm into it.
The thing with Chicagoans is like there's this thing, if you put ketchup on a hot dog here, it gets very, very frowned upon.
Yeah. You should go to jail for that. So.
Okay. Yeah.
No, to me, ketchup's like way too sweet. I'm a mustard and relish and onion guy myself.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, same here. I despise ketchup in all its forms.
There we go. Good man. So
not all the Chicago food things are as canon as that. Like the whole deep dish thing is wildly blown out of proportion. Chicagoans are not into that like people think we are.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't turn it down though. Like it sounds pretty good. Deep dish pizza.
Oh no, yeah.
It's a special occasion pizza, is what it is. It's a first communion. It's the graduation. It's that type of pizza. That's when you do deep dish. So or when
you treat yourself. I gotcha.
Yeah,
nice little.
You don't
treat.
need deep dish every week. Yeah.
So you were telling me that you got some playthrough videos coming up on in your YouTube channel. Is it going to be on your YouTube channel or the prosthetic one?
We'll see if it ends up. Yeah, we got to talk to them about that, where it might end up. But either way, we filmed a couple of playthrough videos for a couple of the songs, guitar wise, and then our drummer Gary is going to be filming a couple drum wise. John, our bass player, will probably do one too. So that'll be fun to get those out there. Zach and I, we filmed those. We filmed those, I think, in the summer, right? I think so. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, late summer maybe. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Geez, so y'all been holding on to those for a while too, then.
Yeah, man.
Mm-hmm. And you were telling me you don't have a tour yet, but you got a couple shows coming up.
Yes, we're playing in Chicago. We're playing Save the Rock and Roll Festival. It's actually a benefit for a number of like staple kind of like metal punk bars in Chicago. We're playing with Yakuza on Sunday, May 1st at Reggie's Rock Club. And then the benefit is for Reggie's Rock Club, Cobra Lounge, Liars Club, and Livewire, all four of which are really a big part of the local, Chicago scene here, as far as, they've been around forever. And certainly we played at every one of those many, many times. So
That's awesome. Love
Yeah.
that when bands do things like that. But speaking about shows, what's the best show you guys have played in your huge 10-year-long or 12-year-long career?
One of the highlights, one of the highlights for me, we played right before the pandemic. We did the 70,000 tons of metal.
The cruise? That's so sick.
Cruise. Yeah, we did that, and that was so fun because that was such a unique experience. It was like a European festival on a boat, and I just had so much fun. We played twice. Our time slots were actually really good. We didn't have to play at like 4 a.m., which is crazy because it's like so weird because you're in this like paradise and the weather is gorgeous, but you're essentially at shows from like 10 a.m. to 4 a.m. like every single day, other than the day that you dock and you get off and, do whatever. But it was such an incredible experience. We played a set right after everyone got back on the boat as we were heading back to Fort Lauderdale. Cause I don't know, where did we go? We went somewhere in Mexico, right? I forget
Cozumel.
Okay. Yeah. But that was really fun because the atmosphere was so great. We got to see so many cool bands. Like, we played our last set and then we all just hopped in our swim trunks and went up to the top stage, and we're sitting in a hot tub right next to At the Gates playing to just a bunch of people, just
That's
like it was
sick.
so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it was just crazy. Yeah, being 10 feet away from At the Gates, like all these lights are going off, and I'm in a hot tub with these two dudes from Finland, and just like screaming "Skull" because they got me drunk. So it was a really cool vibe. Like,
That's
honestly,
insane.
I would highly recommend that cruise to people, especially if you're from the States, because the majority of the attendees are not from the US.
Mhm.
And the vibe was just kind of different, but it was just super, super positive.
Mhm.
And it was fun kind of watching all these different pieces of what is, the metal community as a whole just converging. And it was just, really positive.
Yeah, it seems like it'd be like a party, like 24/7.
Yeah.
It was. It really was. Yeah, it very much was. But even then, like, I remember at one point I got on an elevator in the ship, and just like this like big buff bald European dude walks on, and all he's wearing is a Speedo that the straps like went up to here.
Okay.
And so he was like, "Hey, nice costume." He just went, "It's not the costume."
It's a way of life.
Yeah, that was it. That was the end of that exchange. Great.
Well, it's hard to beat 70 tons of metal. What's your worst show that you guys have played?
Man.
I can think of one. Do you have one?
Actually, I was going to say, at least for me personally, the second set at 70,000 tons was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, I stayed up a little late. Could have stayed up later. It'd be fine under normal circumstances. But woke up feeling a little bit seasick.
Uh-oh.
And then right before our set started, we hit a storm. So, like, all four of us, we all got like that close to falling over while playing because the ship was moving much. Like, I've never had it before where I go to like, change the channel or like, click a pedal on and like actually lunge forward and miss because the floor under you just moved. So that was just wild.
Did they have you playing outside during that, or were you inside?
We were inside for that,
Okay.
but still the whole ship was
Really?
rocking.
That's crazy. What about you,
But
Anthony? What's
a
the
really
worst one?
positive experience, but just that was hard to overcome. But what do you got? What do you got?
That was. I'm remembering back. This was a ways back. This is probably about like 10 years ago at this point. We played a metal festival somewhere, I think somewhere in Indiana, and we signed on to do a Without Waves set. And then back then we would also every now and again play sets of Death Material. And so we signed on to do both of those at the same time. And yeah, and something got messed up where we went up and did it. Somehow it turned out that Without Waves was headlining, and then we would play our death set like right after we finished our set. And so I remember we played our set, and then we got up there and played a bunch of death songs, and like, I don't know, it was just like I think I immediately ran off stage. I remember feeling so sick. I wasn't even drinking. Like, I remember just feeling so sick, and I ran off stage and just ran into the bathroom and just puked my brains out. Like,
just from exhaustion,
or it was just such a long day. And then we went on, we did that death set. We started at like 1:30. And so like the whole bar, like the people working there were just like, are you guys almost done? Like in between songs. And we're like, we can stop now. It's not a problem. Like,
yeah. So you said that like 10 years ago. I thought you were going to say the show when one of the bands we played with, he tried to do that like wrestler move and cut his forehead, and just the stage was covered in blood.
What?
I remember that. Oh, what was that? I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he bladed himself like a wrestler, and he cut way too long and way too deep. And there was just blood everywhere. And
we're at this bladed. I've never heard that term before.
So in wrestling, when the guys like bleed, it's like an old school wrestling thing where they'll take a razor blade and they'll kind of like sneak it like while they're under a turnbuckle and just kind of cut themselves.
The fuck? Okay.
Yeah. But this guy, he's a real heavy metal dude, And so he decided to do that to himself on stage. And he just cut way too far and way too deep and just bled everywhere. The stage was covered in blood. And I remember,
Jesus Christ,
the bartender came out afterwards with like just an old, just like shitty mop bucket, like, and mopped it up and was like, okay, you guys are good to go. And it's just like,
man. And I remember too, so like there was so much blood that at the end of the night, I remember the sound guy made that singer like buy a couple of the XLRs that were on stage, because he's like, I'm not cleaning the blood off of these. Like, this is ridiculous.
That's insane, dude. Why would that even occur to anybody to like cut yourself? It's so weird.
I don't know.
That's funny.
Like, because I've seen people do stuff like that before, and it like, depending on the type of band that you're in, like it can work as long as you're not like bleeding all over the place. I mean, I would do it, but like this guy really, like, he shouldn't have cut himself at all personally, but then he just did it. So it felt like it was on a whim, and he was just trying to, and yeah.
So badass he is. So you guys have vinyl, shirts, CDs, jerseys, tank tops, and hoodies all on your Bandcamp. That's withoutwaves.bandcamp.com. Is that all the merch is, or does Prosthetic have their own thing? How does that work?
I think that's the go-to hub for anything merch related.
Okay, nice. And did you have anything else to show off? I know we had the jersey. Do you have any other items you show off?
Zach, you have your compact disc, right?
I do have my compact. Yes.
Fancy.
Wow.
A nice reflection
on it, yeah.
I imagine y'all are waiting on the vinyl to get in, like production and stuff like that?
We just got word from Prosthetic that it has been shipped.
Nice.
We were bummed that we didn't have it for our release show, but we were expecting it to take a lot longer, based upon some of the correspondence the label had with the company that was printing it. But thankfully it's finally looking like it's here, so people didn't have to wait too long, which is good. So
Nice.
Yeah, because we.
So let's wrap this up then with your album of the year for last year, unless there's like something that came out recently that's caught your eye.
I think this album came out last year. I really like Thundercat. He's one of my favorite artists, and has been for the past couple of years. I think his last album came out in 2020. If I remember correctly. Do you know
Never heard of them
Thundercat?
before. No.
So he's super cool. Really wacky personality, but it's like kind of like ambient R&B, experimental jazz, but like with really good hooks. Like, I mean, he's just a very prolific artist, and great bass player. So
That's an interesting way to describe it. Ambient R&B and what was it? Something progressive jazz, or would you say it was?
kind of experimental sort
jazz.
of jazzy sort of like, yeah, it's a really wacky listen, but it's also a very like deep listen too. So I enjoy stuff like, he uses dissonance in a very, very catchy way. So.
Okay, sounds interesting.
Yeah, and he's the type of dude with a career like, he's played with top upper echelon jazz musicians, but he also played with Suicidal Tendencies for years.
Yeah, that's right.
Incredibly diverse and incredibly unique. Like, he's just fantastic.
Okay.
If you watch the Book of Boba Fett, he was actually in that too, even.
What?
He was in that?
Yeah, man.
Who did he play?
The body modifications.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Well, Zach, what's your album of the year then for last year?
Oh man. I guess I'll probably say the newest Pussifer record. I've been a big Pussifer fan for a really, really long time. It took a while for the record Apocalyptical to actually kind of resonate with me, but I'm at the stage, I have been for like the past just couple weeks or month or two, where it's really starting to grow on me.
And that's one band I needed to check out. They're like kind of sludgy, right? If I'm remembering correctly.
Not so much.
Okay.
Pussifer, not. If you're thinking of Jucifer, maybe.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. If you're looking for an expansive take on prog metal, you should check out Comedian, the new album from Without Waves, which dropped back on the 18th through Prosthetic Records. Y'all are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Bandcamp, all streaming platforms, and YouTube. Is there anything else that I'm missing?
We are on TikTok. On TikTok.
Okay.
We have one.
Are we?
I mean, we are, but
you're technically.
We're in our mid-30s and trying.
Do y'all do like actual challenges and stuff, or are you just posting like music videos and stuff?
We're posting video content here and there. I think it's gonna take us a little bit more time to really kind of like,
Yeah, I don't know what the demand is for men in their mid-30s doing TikTok challenges, but I don't think it's one that we necessarily have to serve. So
we'll see, man. We'll see.
Okay. I've always wanted to like dive deeper into it. I never had enough time though, So yeah, as for me, drop my channel, follow so you always know when I go live. You can also sub to get the interviews before they hit YouTube, and you get some exclusive emails as well. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. YouTube folks, if you like the video, please drop a like, click on the notification bell, and don't forget to subscribe. It's a great way to support me for free. Check out my music, The Sound That Is Creation, at soundthatiscreation.bandcamp.com. My new album, Boomers, Zoomers, Desperate Coomers, is out now. My next guest is Milwaukee-based metalcore band Gracie. Join us this Sunday the 3rd at 7 p.m. Central for the live cast. Thanks for being here, guys. Hope you had a good time.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And thank you guys for watching and listening.